What's up, everyone? This is Nox, and welcome to part 4 of the Zero to Hero series for the Scion Armor Stacker. This one's going to be a little bit short as far as the gear is concerned because we've really only made one change, and that is Mageblood. So we are officially a Mageblood gamer. We gained a ton of armor. We almost doubled our armor by putting this belt on and changing out our flasks. So let's talk about those flasks. So these are going to be up all the time. The prefixes for every single one of these flasks are going to be increased effect. We just want 25% increased effect. The reduced duration doesn't matter because they're up all the time. And then for the suffixes, we want one with movement speed, one with reduced effective curses, one with increased evasion rating, and one with increased armor. Where the suffixes are do not necessarily matter. However, you will probably want a bonus flask that matches whichever one gives you curse immunity for the one that gives you reflected damage taken. So this is a benchcraft here, and you take reduced reflected damage, allows you to do reflect maps just fine. So just in case you run into an 8 mob map or you're doing risk or something and you run into reflect, you can do this. I have it on my curse immunity one. You could put it on your silver flask as well, so you could have reduced reflect damage taken on your silver flask instead. Just as long as you don't lose the increased evasion or the increased armor suffixes, use it on one of these other two utilities, you're good to go. All right, so here we are in Path of Building. You'll notice there's quite a big DPS increase here, and this is without the tincture. So with the tincture, we are at 41 million DPS. This is a little bit less conditional damage now. Remember, we talked about in the last one that it required all of our flasks to be up for us to get this damage. Since we have all these flasks up all the time, regardless of whether or not an enemy is hitting us, we have this damage pretty much all the time as long as our tincture is up, and we sustain our tincture for quite a while. We did change ever so slightly a couple things with the gem setup. I do have a level 3 Enlighten linked to Purity of Elements, Tempest Shield, and Discipline, and a level 3 Enlighten linked to Grace, Purity of Ice, and Determination in my helmet. This was to make up for the mana reservation efficiency lost when we swapped away from Archon's Grace. So if you're swapped to Mageblood and all of a sudden you don't have any mana, that's why. Level 3 Enlightens are like 90C, definitely worth picking up. No other changes to the tree. I did reach level 97, so we have a couple of extra points. I grabbed this accuracy here because we're still undercapped on our accuracy. I also grabbed this rage on hit to give us some extra rage, and rage sustain all the time, even when our tincture is not up. It's very comfy for mapping. And then let's talk about how we've made our money. All right, so this is the results from our most recent farming strategy. This was 21 simulacrums, and this is just the Wealthy Exile showcase of what we have in the stash so far. We did have a couple of lucky drops here. We got a level 1 Enlighten, Ultimatum Scarab of Catalyzing, things like that. But nothing too crazy or out of the ordinary. Just generally speaking, some pretty decent loot. Got some 2120 Tempest Shield. We're probably just going to put this on, to be completely honest with you, because we use Tempest Shield, so we'll probably just put this on. But pinpoint support, nice stuff. This is, again, 20 simulacrums, so doing the math, that is 300 waves of simulacrum. We got about 66 divines in value. And this is just from the generic stuff, you know, the fragments, the crap that drops, the maps, raw currency, things of that nature. Simulacrum gives you a little bit of everything, but the main money in it actually comes from the voices. So voices right now are about 10 divines unidentified, and we got 7 of them. All right, so jumping into game here, I wanted to talk about the unique cluster jewels that we found. So we found 7 voices, which are going for about 10 divines apiece unidentified. I have sold these for as high as 12.5 divines apiece unidentified, but we'll see where the market goes. I will count them as about 9.5 divines in the breakdown here shortly. We also got a bunch of megalomaniacs. Nothing crazy notable standing out as far as the notables that are on them, but I'll throw these in an tab and price them. I'm going to track them as about 20C a piece though, because, you know, if I get lucky in this and get one that's worth 50 divines, that's not really reflective of how good the farm is. And then we got several split personalities as well that need to be price checked. And again, I counted these as about 10C. But this is also the breakdown of when I got these cluster jewels. So the voices were a little bit more common than I thought. Not as common as my previous set of simulacrums, but they're a little bit more common than I thought they were in general. And this is about where I found them. So in the very first simulacrum, I got no unique cluster jewels at all, then some megalomaniacs, split personalities, and so on. The earliest I got a voices was wave 5, and that was this one right here. I was very surprised that you can get them on wave 5, but essentially anytime you kill Kosa's or Omniphobia, it has a chance to drop. It does not seem to have an increased drop chance for later waves. You do get more rewards in general, but you don't get more of these in later waves. Generally speaking, I'm getting these around the wave 8 to 12 mark. I haven't gotten a single cluster jewel on wave 15 yet. Maybe I'm unlucky, but I just wanted to pass that on. All right, so here is a spreadsheet and breakdown of the total costs and revenue for the 20 simulacrums that we did. I paid 85C for each simulacrum. This is the total amount for 20 maps. And this is what I've pulled from Wealthy Exile as far as currency, scarabs, maps, etc. It doesn't have things like the Enlighten support. It doesn't have things like the Tempter Shield or the Resonators. But what it does have is just basic, transfers of currency. So if I filter this by currency, I can sort of sell most of this gumball currency for about 15 divines. I have that sort of broken down and pulled out. I did take out some of the crappy gumball currency that I'm probably never going to sell. So it's a very conservative estimate of what we've made. So as you can see, the main profit here is going to be the voices. I have these priced at about 9.5 divines a piece, and we made 66.5 divines on the voices alone. Again, Megalomaniacs I have priced at 20C, and split personalities I have priced at 10C, bringing our total divines made per simulacrum to 3.8. I think this is a pretty conservative estimate. It's probably closer to 4 or 4.5. I will say the disadvantages of the strategy is you're doing simulacrum all the time. So if you don't really enjoy that, then it's definitely not going to be a strat for you. It is pretty good money though. So if you can just, jump into a simulacrum, watch a YouTube video on the side screen, and if you're playing this build, you're super tanky, and I was never in threat of dying. I will say that my mercenary did die on the very last wave of the very last simulacrum. She died like almost the same time Kosis died, and it took me a little bit to kill the last rare, but we made it through. Super fun to do, made a ton of money. For the next video, we're going to be making some rares. We have a necrotic armor to make, and we have a Lich's circlet to make. But I needed the currency to do that because fracturing orbs are expensive. So I'm going to farm up some more, get the materials all set up, and then I'll craft something for you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and sub, and I will see you guys next time.